What would you do if your HOA president showed up to your burning house before the roof even collapsed? I mean, really think about it. Most folks call the fire department, not the neighborhood bureaucrat with a clipboard. But there she was, standing there like she already had the whole story figured out before the first firefighter even unrolled a hose. And me? I was just another line on her to-do list, right after ruin a guy's night. I can still hear the windows popping, sharp and clean, like the world was cracking open, memory by memory. There I was, boots rooted in gravel gone orange from the glow, breathing air thick enough to chew. My cabin, my whole damn life on Ridgewater Hill, was lighting up the Montana night, flames shooting into the sky, eating everything I'd built. Funny, you don't remember sirens first. You remember the little things, the heat licking at your face from yards away, the ground humming with noise, the resin smell riding over the scent of old pine. And right in the middle of it, Bethany Reed. Coral jacket, tight smile, phone glowing in her hand. President of the Ridgewater Lakefront Association. If you've never been on the wrong side of someone like her, count yourself lucky. She didn't waste time with pleasantries. I'm here because this affects the entire community. That's what she said. No, how can I help? Just a list of complaints, like she'd been practicing them for this exact moment. Questions about fire breaks, about fencing, about whether I'd turn my land into a hazard. Hazard. That word burned hotter than the flames, chewing through my roof. Nothing up there changed yesterday, I told her. Didn't matter. She started in on my so-called violations. Unauthorized this, non-compliant, that the old generator my wife's rose bushes. You ever get the feeling someone wants you gone more than they want you safe? That's what it felt like standing in the glow of my burning cabin, the whole night warped by her shadow. Luckily, the sheriff showed up. Marcus Hale, a good man, if you ever meet him. He told her to back off, let the fire crews work. She gave him that tight, patient smile people save for service workers and adversaries. And then she dropped the real bomb. If my negligence caused the fire, the HOA would have no choice but to take legal action. It wasn't the first time. For months, Bethany and her board had been chipping away at me. Letters in my mailbox every week. Violations about everything from compost piles to the fence my wife and I built together before she passed. Non-aesthetic rose garden. That's how they described the only spot she'd planted herself, right after the flood. I started stacking the letters like bricks on the counter. I took pictures, made logs, did all the things an old engineer does when he senses a storm coming. But see, it wasn't just about the letters. It was the way she looked at my land, the barn, the dam, the slope the developers couldn't touch because my deed said otherwise. Ownership, not order. And it wasn't just paranoia. I saw the plans, the blueprints with my ridge mapped out for expansion, the notes scribbled about future community improvement. I even caught them sending a fake inspector with a clipboard to try and catch me out on fence height. Claimed it blocked a view that only deer ever saw. Then came the midnight storm. I'd been out checking the dam, as usual, when something fell off. Lake level dropped just a couple inches, but that's enough if you know the land. Fresh tire tracks down to my lower gate, which shouldn't have been open. When I got there, the lock was forced and the valve half-cracked, water draining in a way that could have damaged county lines and triggered an unsafe infrastructure complaint. I checked my security cameras. Yeah, motion-triggered, tucked in places only a paranoid or an engineer would think of. And there they were. Two figures, one in a reflective vest, the other in an HOA jacket. I didn't sleep that night. I watched the footage over and over, piecing it together with a rising stack of violation notices, the relentless pressure to give up my land. The next morning, before I'd even wiped the rain from my porch rail, I got an email. Formal safety complaint. Filed by Bethany Reed. Timestamp for in the damn morning, hours before sunrise. It all started making sense. The accidents, the inspections, the growing pile of paper. It was a strategy, not a campaign. If they couldn't buy me out, they'd make me a hazard, make the ridge too dangerous, too non-compliant for anyone to live on. And if a fire started, well, that would just prove their point. I wasn't alone in this, though. Walt, the old-timer down the road, he'd been here longer than anybody. One morning, I marched over to his place, told him everything, tire tracks, valve sabotage, the complaints, the cameras. He listened, pipe clamped between his teeth, jaw working like he was chewing on anger. They've done it before, Walt told me. Drove the Davis family out with so many fines they couldn't see straight. Next was the Cortezes, claimed their birdhouses were a code violation. One by one, anybody who didn't fit the HOA's little vision got squeezed out. He gave me a folder, copies of letters, emails, screenshots he'd been collecting. You're not the first, Remy, but you might be the last if you don't fight back. So I started collecting too. Photos, blueprints, emails. Every time they sent a notice, I added it to the stack. Every time they sent someone to inspect, I filmed it. My lawyer friend, Sarah Mitchell, started digging, too, public records, meeting notes, HOA financials. She found payments to a contractor who wasn't licensed, ledgers that didn't match their official records, and a development plan, Phase 3, right over my land. My home was the last thing in their way. That's when the fire came. The night was too still. Smoke reached me before the first siren, and by the time I got outside, it was a furnace. The flames weren't wild. They followed paths, patterns, the sort you see in arson investigations, not in kitchen mishaps. Firefighters found my fireproof lockbox under the collapsed floor. When I opened it, hands shaking, heart about to beat through my ribs, I found everything I'd saved. Deeds, security footage, reports. And in the footage from that night, 2 figures again. Same posture, same clothes. One carrying a canister, the other rigging a propane trigger to my old generator. Bethany herself, clear as day in the video, walked away right before the fire started, making a call, hair still perfect, jacket crisp. And the real kicker? Sarah found out Bethany had filed an insurance claim 2 weeks before the fire, citing projected damage from a blaze, originating right where my cabin stood. So I called the sheriff, told him to bring a warrant, brought out the lockbox, the footage, the paperwork. By the next morning, the fire was out, but the real heat was just starting. The courtroom was packed, the kind of pack that happens when a whole town wants to see the mighty fall. Sarah laid out the evidence, security footage, email chains, insurance claims filed before anything even burned. The judge watched, silent and cold, while Bethany's attorneys sputtered and sweated. When it was over, the HOA's enforcement was suspended and a criminal investigation opened for fraud, arson, conspiracy. Not just Bethany, but the board, the contractor, the so-called inspector, everyone who'd had a hand in trying to run me off my own land. Bethany tried to glare me down as she was led away in cuffs. She looked smaller without the podium, the coral jacket, the clipboard. She looked for the first time like someone who realized their story had gotten away from them. Me? I stayed on the ridge, watched as the lakefront whispered and neighbors came by with coffee, with apologies, with offers to help rebuild. Even the folks who once avoided me now wanted to know the truth. Sarah visited, bringing news, fraud charges, state audits, the HOA dissolved, the expansion canceled. The law finally caught up to the lies. We rebuilt the cabin with neighbors' help and a grant for fire victims. Walt showed up every morning, thermos in hand, grinning like a man with years shaved off his heart. They even passed a new state law, protecting landowners from HOA overreach, making old deeds senior to new bylaws. Maybe I'll be a footnote in that someday, but for now, I'm just grateful to see the sunrise over my ridge. And you want to know what stuck with me most? It wasn't revenge or victory. It was the way the ridge went quiet afterward, like the mountain itself had been holding its breath, waiting for something to break the spell. The lake shined brighter, the wind didn't sound so angry anymore. And as I stood on the new deck, watching the birds and the light spill across the water, I realized you can burn a house, but you can't burn the truth. So I'll ask you, if someone tried to take your land, your life, with lies and fire, would you fight? Or would you fold? Have you ever stared down someone who thought they could bend the law to break you? Drop a yes in the comments, or just share your story if you've ever had to stand up for what's right. Because stories like this, they remind us that truth might bend, but it never, ever breaks.
Cảm ơn tất cả các bạn đã xem video.